Okay, we're here on the second half of our pastel painting here, and what we're going to do now is we're going to take and we're going to start on the roof of this church. And what I like doing is I always like taking the actual pastel pencil and I'll take and draw just like I would if I was drawing with a normal pencil. And the reason I like doing that is because it helps me keep in line with everything. And when I start to really paint it in, it really helps a whole lot there too as well. So now we got the outline of the actual roof here. So now we can actually just start shading it in. And those hard lines just gives you a good reference point. That way you don't get out of your area that you need to be in. You don't paint into the sky or anywhere else. You don't really have to worry about it when you're doing your drawing of the outline. If you don't have that steady of a hand, I mean, it's okay. I don't have the world's greatest freehand when it comes to drawing. If you want to, you can use there's no rules. I mean, you can use rulers or anything you want to guide you. The good thing about it is you can always go back and fix it up if it's not like you want it, or if you've drawn outside your line. You know, you can always go back and fix it up, and however you want to do that. And if you're getting into some tight spaces, instead of going straight across like this in some smaller tight spaces, you can actually just take it and press down a little bit, but not too hard so you don't break it. But you can actually just take and drag it, because you can drag that pastel over some areas that you just can't get to. Like down here at the bottom. You can go from side to side. Just to make sure you cover it. That's really that simple to do. And then when you're using your color shaper, if you've already got some pastel on it, you can just take your fingers and just rub that off. You can just rub it off of that color shaper like that. That way you're not blending any more extra colors into your different color pattern there. It's always good to use the color shaper tool though, because that's going to actually smooth out everything. You want it to get good and smooth. And it's going to also help it to color in, blend in the paper a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this lighter gray . Just going to kind of fill in a little bit here with some of this gray. And that's just going to kind of lighten it up just a little bit. And not only is it going to lighten it up, but it's just going to give you, you know, basically what you're looking for. This was actually originally almost like a tiled roof. Shingles. Then I'm going to take a little bit more of this darker color that I had here. Just going to kind of run some hard lines across it a little bit. Not going to completely cover up my gray, but just rub a little bit of hard lines across it. And just kind of down a little bit. And then I'm going to go back across it. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a good little simulation of some good little squares that's on the roof there. And then you can just lightly touch it with your blender. You don't want to go too hard with it. so now I'm going to actually take and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually go down the side of my roof a little bit from the outline of the steeple. And I am going to grab just a black here. I'm just going to go down just a little bit with this black. And the reason I'm doing that is because that's actually the shadows of the shingles. That's actually on the side that you can't see of this steeple here. That's a good simulation of that. And then at the top, and then I'm going to outline the actual top part here. Get a little dark area here where the bell's going to be on the inside. And then just bring a little bit of light right there. A little bit of light shading there. So now I'm going to take the actual orange color. The bricks on the church is just kind of a little bit of orangey looking color there. So I'm going to take an orange color and that's what I'm going to do the church with. And again, just taking some of that pastel and defining my edges of the actual church. And once I do that, I'm going to hit the top of this a little bit with this eraser. I'm going to get some of that blue color that's hanging inside there. Just take a little bit of that blue out. You want to try to stay away from the black area as much as you can with your pastel here. You don't want to drag none of that black in the mix of your orange. And as you can see here, I'm just taking and just kind of pushing up a little bit. Just kind of pushing up back and forth near the edge of my black. Just doing some little smaller short strokes with it. And that way you can actually have more control doing it that way. And now that I've got all of that taken care of from the outline, I can go a little faster. And I can just start going from side to side with my pastel. Go around my window area. And then when you get to those tight areas, then you can just push up and down again. Not sure if you're familiar with a crosshatch, but you can kind of do a crosshatch type with these pastels, especially when you're doing pastels on this type of paper that has the teeth that it has. And you can kind of go with a crosshatch, you can go across this way, get your coverage this way, and then you can kind of go across it up and down this way. That will actually help you get more coverage and fill in those teeth really, really well, you know. So now we're going to move over to this side. Just try to get right under the roof there, just on top of the windows. You can notice I'm still using that crosshatch technique there. And just going around where my little shrubs is going to be as well. Every now and then you're going to have to stop and sharpen up your pencil. And if you find out that you're not covering as much anymore, then that's when you really need to sharpen your pastel pencil. Now, because of this church, I don't worry about really doing a lot of blending on the surface of the church, because you want it to kind of look a little rough. It's always good to have it just a little rough looking anyway. I'm going to take a different color orange. I'm going to take a darker color orange. Just going to kind of hit some areas with that. The look at this church here, in reality, it's got some darker color on the bricks, just how the church was constructed, and I guess over time some of it, you know, some of the bricks were just kind of light, and then some of them were just darkened a good bit in certain areas. And so that's really the look that I'm actually going for here. It wasn't like that in all of them, all the areas of the church, just certain spots. And that's what I'm kind of simulating here, just some of those little darker areas. Alright, so now I'm going to go back with my original color. kind of leaving a little bit of a gap right in here in this area and on this area, because it's just a little bit different color there, because it's part of the shingles for the roof that you can actually see. And of course the door area. That door area there is going to have some shadows in it. So I'm going to take my white now I want to bear down just a little bit on that. And I want to kind of get the top of that church just a little bit. And I'm going to put a little bit of a yellow into it. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. And then I'm going to just try to take my color shaper tool here. I am going to blend that a little bit. Just to give it that little color variation, and you can actually see how it defines that little small section where the front door actually is. And we're going to call this part 2 here, and then we come back in the next part 3, then we're going to actually finish up the door, and we're going to finish up the actual windows of the church, and we'll put the little bell on up here at the top, and then we'll kind of start around the bushes, and we'll get into the grass.